Welcome everybody. I wanted to start off with a little bit of a theme today and give you a why and where we're going, and then we'll get into the how, all right? So those of you that have been tuning in lately, we're talking about sort of hitting things from different perspectives and hitting practices from different angles. In general, we could call that cross-training. I'm a big fan of cross-training. So I do that in other areas of my life, but I've also done it in Qigong practice. So to the medical Qigong practitioners, I'm very familiar with sort of that vein or train of thinking. Qigong is also broken up into a martial category. So I'm also very familiar with how the martial artists and the martial Qigong people look at the Qigong practice. Having said that, I'm also very familiar with the spiritual community and how it is that the spiritual community, or those who train Qigong for the purposes of enlightenment, how they sort of see it. And as I've been mentioning lately, if you look at the old practices that trace back to the Shaolin Temple, there's kind of a combination of all of those things, even to this day, still happening there. Although they're, at least on the surface, there's more of an emphasis toward the Zen Buddhist side, more martial side. You see a lot of the physical Kung Fu practices. And then behind that, you sort of see the meditation and the mindfulness practices and so on go with that. So having said that, I want to come from an angle today, going into some of the deeper, finer spiritual art side of it, if you will. I wrote both a Facebook post today, and I also put up a blog post on the Facebook page talking about some of what we're going to do today, which is getting in touch with the pain body, the emotional body, and beginning to make some very purposeful shifts there. Because that pain body, that emotional body, what I call in my book, the emotional pain body, we have Eckart Tolle over here, coining a relatively new term called the pain body, but for thousands of years it's been referred to as the emotional body. And the idea behind the emotional body is there's a lot of pain in it, there's a lot of old memory, there's a lot of past in it. So for those of you that are looking to heal something in your physical body, you really have to get in touch with the pain body, this emotional body. You really have to get in touch with it. And it's very tricky, because you can do a lot of things. You can go out there and exercise and do a lot of things that are good for you and eat the right foods. It's very tricky to get in there deep enough to make a shift in the deeper layers of the emotional body so as to see a shift in the physical. So today, I want to show you how to do that if you want to. I want to take you into that. And we're going to work with this. When you need to take a time out, take a time out. Everybody's going to be in a different place with this. I'm going to teach you some exercises that are going to get you in touch with your pain body. We're going to do a lot of different things with standing tree meditation. But one of the things that standing tree meditation does is it begins to help you to get in touch with your emotional pain body. And we need to move some of the sludge in that heavier emotional body if we're going to see a change in some sort of physical condition, some movement in an organ, or whether it's the liver or the spleen, in order to move something that's going on in our shoulders, for example, or our hips, etc. So we're going to start off real basic standing Buji posture. If you are familiar with this practice, you might want to go ahead and close your eyes. Otherwise, just leave your eyes open and kind of gaze. Try not to look around the room, just gaze. And if you're relatively brand new to this posture, your mind becomes very busy right away. And literally, I'll tell you what it's saying, even though it's sort of a metaphor, really, rather than it's saying exactly this. It's saying something about the toaster or the kitchen or something you forgot or something you need to think about in the future. But what it's really saying to you is, why are you doing this? Stop doing this. Let me distract you. And if you're more familiar with this practice, that doesn't disturb you at all. You start getting very quiet. because in general, that is called the mind or the monkey mind. Now, that's not the mind with a capital M, that's the monkey mind, the little mind. And if you want to become a more successful, more proficient practitioner, then you want to begin to separate between what is your monkey mind, this busy mind, this noise, this confusion, and this other aspect of yourself called higher mind or watcher or observer, which is also connected to your will and your willpower. So these are two very different levels of living and being. So using your will, exercising your will to stand still, and in doing so, you immediately begin gathering energy to yourself that was being wasted a moment ago. Now, if you can get better at this, so to speak, if you can emphasize a higher level practice, then bring your attention right between your eyebrows. And you'll notice sometimes that when I speak to you and we're doing standing tree meditation, it's one of the only times I fumble with my words a little bit, because when I stand here and I start to close my eyes, there's all this inner activity, and then I'm having to use my voice to do something else. Because the better you get at this practice, the more inward you go and the more inward you want to go. To begin with, it can be very noisy. So again, everybody's at a different place with this practice today. So I'm just going to go based on feeling here. But if any time you need to sit down and you need to rest and go, okay, I need to take a break, I'm getting nauseous, I'm lightheaded, this is longer than I've ever stood here in my life, you know, whatever the story is, just take care of yourself. I just want to do my best to put you up against the edge of what is called your emotional pain body. I want to put you up against the edge of that. I want you to feel it a little bit. And then I want to walk you through some of the transformational changes that you can make there and why it is that you might want to do that. I've already told you some of those reasons in the article that I wrote on Facebook, and also on the blog post. There's more reasons, and I might get into a few more before we part here today. So right now, you're attempting to exercise this thing called your will. You're also attempting to exercise this thing called your focus, which is slightly different. The focus is up there in your third eye, up there in between your eyebrows. And you're emphasizing to do that while also taking control over the physical body. You're starting to dictate the physical body. And guess what? The monkey mind does not like that. Not at all. Until the monkey mind is trained to know that you are the master in charge, then it will fight you at every single turn. Wherever you're at with that, go ahead and purposefully take a deep breath. Pull it through the nose, slow, breathe into the belly, then up into the lungs, then exhale it. You'll notice it comes from the lungs, it comes out first, then at the belly, exhales. So when we breathe in slow through the nose, when you're ready, do it again. You breathe in slow through the nose, it'll fill the belly first. When the belly is full, it will naturally fill the lungs. As the lungs fill up and you're ready to exhale, just exhale the breath. You can do that from the nose or the mouth. As the breath starts to come out, The exhale will leave the lungs, and then it will leave the lower belly. Once you've done that twice, I want you to do it one more time, third time. Now we're going to go to a transition position here in just a moment. Some of you are going to want to stay standing just like you are. Some of you may want to transition to a seated position. Some of you may have just, shaken it out. You're ready to stand again. So again, take care of yourself wherever you're at with that. I'm going to give you some different options so that you can work with it as best you can here today. So if you feel like now's a good time to sit down, sit down. If you already rested, you're ready to have at it again, great. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying there. The transition position now, for those of us that are still standing here and those that are seated and ready to practice some more, you're going to go ahead and take your middle fingers, you're going to place them at the lower rim of the navel center, and we are going to now further light the lower dantian on fire. We are going to set ablaze this emotional pain body. Why are we going to do that? Because we want to melt it, we want to alchemize it, as it is said in ancient Taoist traditions. It is like melting lead and turning it into gold. That's what we're going for. Make sure if you're still, especially if you're still in standing tree meditation, still standing there in standing tree meditation, make sure your knees are slightly bent because you don't want to cut off the circulation to your legs. You want to have some blood flow there, okay? Some of it will be restricted somewhat, but you want to have some bend in the knees, otherwise you will get lightheaded too quickly. Your legs will start to fall asleep on you too quickly. And for some of you, that's going to happen anyway. This is an excellent exercise for your circulation, excellent exercise for the circulation of blood, for the circulation of the lymph system, and circulation of the chi system, which is the nervous system as well. Okay, so holding middle fingers touching lower rim of the navel center, hands against the belly. For some of you, and I can feel it again collectively in the group, getting really charged and really burning some stuff. I can smell, if you will, some smoldering. There's some burning, some smoldering going on. When you start turning that fire, I'll say the firewood, into hot ashes, and it begins to smolder, and those hot ashes begin to turn red, you start to get this, what is called in Chinese medicine, a true heat, associated with the Ming Meng fire, moving up into the kidneys. You get this true heat, and that true heat, not like erroneous heat, those of you that are familiar with Oriental medicine where you have too much heat versus too much dampness of the spleen or something like this. This is a true heat, a true fire, which is associated with what the Buddhists call your true nature.